everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Novel Idea. My name is Dia, and today is going to be a Friday read. All right, so let's begin. The first book that I completed this last week was Master of Poisons. This is written by Andrea Hairston, and I gave this one an 89% B+ rating. The writing style is really unique in this book. It's an adult high fantasy, definitely, and it is a standalone, but it is African inspired, and it feels like a sort of like oral tradition retelling of an African fairy tale is what it reminded me of. So it is, there's no explanation in the book as to the world or anything like that. You're just plopped right in the middle of it, and you are expected to be able to figure it out. And it does take a little while to kind of get there, but once you're there, it's fantastic. There is a desert that is poisonous, and it is expanding into the areas of the world that have not been poisoned by it. And the master of poisons is the person in the kingdom who's in charge of figuring out a way to stop the progression of the desert. And so the story is of that kingdom that's in trouble and has been influenced and encroached upon by all different kinds of things. So we've got the desert, that's the first thing, and it's natural disasters that kind of happen with its expansion. And then we have zealots and pirates, and we have them, everybody trying to find their own footing within the world. There are two main points of view, and on top of that, there are also some very unique animal companions in the book that also you hear a little bit from them. You hear the characters speaking with them and talking with them, so you get to hear them a little bit too, which I thought was absolutely charming. It's an incredibly compelling book. So the author demonstrates this real belief in that a story itself can be magic, and that it's a powerful tool when it's used in the right way. And so I found that to be also fascinating. And it's also what made it feel very much like an oral tradition kind of story to me, because she was telling a story about a story, and it was supposed to be teaching you something and encouraging you into something. So my only real qualm with the book was that it was slow in pacing sometimes, and we spent a little too long on certain plot points that I didn't feel were real important. But that is everything about Master of Poisons that I can tell you without spoiling the book. It was absolutely enjoyable to me. I loved my time in the book. And so Master of Poisons, Andrea Hairston, 89% B+. Okay, so the next one that I finished was R.J. Barker's Call of the Bone Ships. This is the second book in the Tidechild trilogy, and I loved it just as much as I loved the first book, just the Bone Ships. And again, another adult high fantasy, nautical, almost pirate-esque in nature, or in tone, without it really being about pirates. It's a very matriarchal kind of culture still in the second book. It's both matriarchal as far as the actual society goes, and then it's matriarchal in tone as well, the tone of the characters and how they treat women feels very matriarchal also. And so the character development and the arc of their character, the arc of their maturing and growth and all of that is off the charts in this writing. R.J. Barker does an amazing job with the character development part of the story. It's part adventure, part rooting for the underdog, part striving for peace, in a way that doesn't look like peace is even possible. And book 2 just kind of upped the ante of everything, I think. It did everything that the first book did and took it to the next level. So I'm really looking forward to book 3 and seeing how this trilogy wraps up. And I already have another one of R.J. Barker's books, because I figure that once I'm done with this trilogy, I just need to immediately move on with more of their writing. So this one was a 97% A for me, and that's the highest A that I can give. The only reason why I didn't rate it higher was because I'm not a big war story person, and there's a lot of battle in this and a lot of violence and cruelty. And so I'm hoping that the next one kind of goes back to where the first one was, and it deals more with just life developing in this exile world that the characters are in, instead of having to be more battle scenes. I don't mind a battle scene or two, I just don't want the whole story to revolve around it, and this one sort of did. So that was the only reason why I rated it lower than the first book. So that is Call of the Bone Ships, R.J. Barker, and 97% A. And then the next book that I finished up this week is Paradise Lost by John Milton. This was a reread for me, but I had not reread it since high school, probably was the last time that I read this. And so if you're not familiar with it, it is in poem style, and it is the retelling of the fall of creation, and but it does encompass more than just the fall of creation, but it is mainly about that. So we are with God, we are with Satan, we're with Adam and Eve. Those are our four main characters, and he tells it both from an outsider looking upon it, and then from each one of the characters' perspectives as well. So it changes tone and things, but it's basically about humanity. The lens of our values are going to interpret how we receive the story, just like it's going to determine how we receive what's written in the Bible. So is it better to serve heaven or to reign in hell? That's the main question that it asks and what will ultimately bring happiness to us. So what I love about this work is how attractive and heroic Satan is when he is left to his own thoughts. And so in his own eyes and to the eyes of his followers, he's like this heroic, tragic figure. But as soon as you get an outside perspective of Satan, somebody that isn't following him and isn't a part of his hell that he believes he can make into heaven, he's shown to be weak and just very delusional, and that you can see that he is grasping at straws, I guess, so to speak, in the fact that he's trying to delude everyone who hears him into being a follower. So I enjoyed it. I thought that it was not probably I thought it was very on the nose, I guess, as far as being obvious in what he was trying to do, because he just comes right out and says things. But I still really enjoyed it because I love the Bible, and I loved hearing this story brought to life in a new way, I guess, to me anyway, in that form of poetry. So John Milton's Paradise Lost, this was a 96% for me, so an A. And the only thing that would have made it better was just not being so on the nose obvious about what it was he was saying, and letting the reader try to do a little more interpreting on their own. All right. So then the next book that I finished up was Named of the Dragon. This is by Susannah Kearsley, and this was an 86% B read for me. So this book was the most disjointed of all of her books that I've read. So she always has a dual timeline, or maybe not necessarily timeline. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but she always has a very historical timeline that's going on with the present day, and that story is supposed to be being interwoven into the present day story to help the character from the present day figure something out or accomplish something. And so this one, though, the connective points were tenuous, I guess is a good word for it. It was not easy to make those connections, and when you did make them, or when she made them, you were like, oh yeah, I guess that would work. To me, it wasn't as good as every other book of hers that I've read. So it's about a modern day literary agent who has a very good friend who is an author, and the literary agent has had a tragedy in her life, and the author invites her to Wales to come and stay and maybe recover and kind of get her feet back underneath her, so to speak, over a Christmas holiday. And typical of Kearsley, there's a romantic interest that is there. Of course, she doesn't know it's there until after she's there, but there's romantic interest, but it's not a romance story, and it's not developed at all, really, in this book. There are trigger warnings for this book, so if you have any hardship in reading about the loss of a child in any kind of a way, I would not probably pick this book up. So you can go read the trigger warnings if you need to, but this one was very strong on that one particular theme. So just be aware of that. It was supposed to have Arthurian links, so I was really looking forward to it. But like I said, the historical tied to the present just didn't, it felt messy. That's what it felt like to me. It felt ungrounded and messy. And so that was the reason that this one earned only an 86% and a B from me. Still, it was, I mean, I finished the book. I didn't DNF it. It wasn't horrible or anything. It was just not everything that I was hoping for from a Susannah Kearsley book. So then I went on to read a book called Nettle and Bone, and this is by T. Kingfisher. I don't believe I have read anything by T. Kingfisher before, so I picked this up because of Angela from Literature Science Alliance. She said that she was going to read it and that it was a new release, and she explained a little bit of what it was about, and I thought it sounded like something I might enjoy, so I went ahead and picked it up. Our library had it, and I'm so happy that I did. This was a 97% A read for me. Again, adult, high fantasy, very unique magic system, and just really wonderful, wonderful characters that are endearing. It's about sisterhood, meaning the main character is a sister, and it's about impossible tasks. It's got an unlikely cast of characters that become friends and found family. It's very much a sister who believes that she is completely unloved and unlovable, and through some tragedies in her life finds that she doesn't really care whether they love her or not. She is going to be their hero. She is going to be their rescuer, and the story just unfolds from there. And she goes about trying to find ways to rescue the rest of her family. And like I said, it's just an absolutely charming, utterly enchanting story. It really stole my heart. I loved it. And so there is an animal companion in this book as well. And I do love a good animal companion. It's a slow buildup. It takes its time explaining how she gets to the place where she has to go do these tasks. And there's a very slow burn G-rated romance in the book as well. It's about second chances, and it is a blend of folklore and fairy tale. And I've heard it described as dark, and I guess it is a little on the grittier side, especially with the kind of magic that it deals with, or that, not that it deals with, but the kind of magic that is in it that she deals with things with. But overall, I felt that it was very hopeful, that it was very bright in its characters itself, that it didn't feel like dark to me in that way. So again, that is Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher and is a 97% A for me. Okay, so onward. The next one is Driving Miss Daisy, and this is a play by Alfred Uhry, and I give this a 95% A. This is the closest adaptation I have ever read in my whole life. The movie of this is the closest adaptation I have ever seen of a written work. I kept remembering the scenes in the movie as the scenes in the play were read. And so it's the story of two elderly people who are the most unlikely of company that become the best of friends for the rest of their lives. And it's very simply told. It is limited in its scope and its message, but the scope that it uses and the message that it conveys are very well done. And so I just really loved it, found that it had me sighing quite a bit. Just, oh, that's so cute. I just loved it. And of course, it's a difficult message in some ways. And yet, because of the love and acceptance and the ability to show empathy and compassion, in spite of what your culture or your society says, it was so good. And I loved that the character of Hoke, who is the driver of Miss Daisy, really comes to a place of standing up for himself, not just allowing things to happen to him, but that he begins to make things happen in his own life, in his own world. And it's just beautiful. It was a beautiful story. So 95% A, Driving Miss Daisy, Alfred Uhry. All right, and then I found for free through Audible in their catalog that they have of just free Audible books. I wanted something that would just kind of be a quick, fluffy kind of read in between the expansive mysteries and fantasies that I was reading. So I read a Cozy Corgi mystery and loved every moment of it. It was so fun to see on the page Corgi antics going on and their little personalities just coming forward. So if you don't know, we do own a Corgi, and she is typical in just about every Corgi way possible. So this one was stubborn, was all about food, was resistant to being cuddled or really, didn't want to hang out too long to be pet or do that kind of thing. Just, hey, let me say hi and I'll be on my way. Unless of course you had a cookie. Her Corgi in the book was Watson, and he was all about the treats. And so anyway, it was typical of a cozy mystery in the fact that you could figure it out from page 1, what was going to happen, who was going to be responsible. But I still loved it just because of the corginess. So Cruel Candy was the name of the Cozy Corgi mystery. It is by Mildred Abbott, and I gave this an 88% B+. Okay, and then onward to my next Daniel Abraham book. I am so loving learning about this author and the fact that he can write so well. Again, it was a 98% A+ read. Its characters of the first books are back again. We again are 15 years after the second book ends. So that's now 30 years or 32 years or so after the first book. And he builds things so ably. He is just so gifted when it comes to this story. And you can tell that he thought things out ahead of time. You can tell that maybe it was even one story and he's just divided it up. So the stakes are raised in this book. The culture gives us the same frame of reference that it has given us in the last couple of books. The war aspect of Autumn War is necessary, but he doesn't dwell on it. It's not all about the descriptions of the battles and the armor and the way swords are swung. He doesn't dwell on the nuances of each and every battle. It's still very much a human story. We are seeing love, we are seeing pride, we are seeing hate, we are seeing greed. All of those kinds of things are still in the story. It's very much about inner struggles as well as outward ones. So we see, the struggle of power again, and we see the struggle of pride and of punishment and protection. And it's the most interesting character study of any fantasy book I have ever read. And the Quartet title is really proving itself to be true. It is long in the scope of years that it is covering so far. If it continues this way, we're going to be 45, 50 years from the time of the first book by the time this one ends. And it's long in that sense of it. And then it's also the price that we are seeing is in many different aspects as well. So we're seeing the price, the personal cost of things, and we are seeing the societal cost of decisions and actions, and we are seeing the practice cost of it, the putting things into practice and what that's actually going to cost them as a country, as a nation, as a world. So the name of the quartet is really proving itself to be well named. And I'm just so excited to see how he wraps this up in the next book. I have one more book, you guys. That was book 3. This next one is, what is it called? Is it summer? So I've done spring, fall, spring, autumn, and winter. Yep. So the next one has got to be summer. So I don't even know what it's called, but I'm anxious to get onto it and see how he wraps everything up. And Autumn War, Daniel Abraham, 98% A+. Okay, so my final book that I finished this past week is Amy Ewing's The Cerulean. And again, it is a 97% A. I had just had a really good reading week. This is a YA fantasy. It is a duology, so this is the first book in the duology. And this is an alien world that has been tethered to an Earth-like kind of world, and they are tethered so that they can absorb plant-powered life from the planet that they are tethered to. And every century or so, they have the opportunity to break the tether, but it requires a sacrifice. And so one of their own has to willingly give up their life to break the tether. And the main character of the story is the one that is chosen this century to do so, but something goes wrong, and she survives the sacrificial fall from her world to the Earth-like world below. So it then becomes this incredibly epic kind of story. It moves very quickly. It is not a big book. It moves very quickly. It basically, when she survives her fall, she is taken captive by others in the world below, and the tether is not severed. And so it's her adventure of trying to escape, trying to find the tether, and trying to get back to her own world that allows her world to move on also. Again, it has found family. It has characters that mature quite quickly. Like I said, not a big book, and they mature very fast. So at the beginning, there is quite a bit of that teenage angst, but it doesn't stay there. It doesn't sit there very long. So I didn't expect to like this book as much as I did. I read the back and I thought, okay, this sounds like a good story, but it's YA. And like I said, I'm not usually one for angst. It's not something that I usually enjoy. But because it moved so quickly beyond that point, it worked for me. And I thought the magic was just really beautiful. The story was beautiful. The world was beautiful. It was themes of female empowerment. It was themes of acceptance and empathy, of discovery, of choosing right over indoctrination even. So trusting your own heart and what your heart seems to know over what you are being told. I just thought it was so good. I have already put the second book on hold at the library, and will be taking my stack of books that I have here back so that I can pick up a new stack. So that's everything that I have finished reading. I am in the middle of a couple, and those ones are Aunts Aren't Gentlemen by P.G. Wodehouse. Just barely picked this one up, so I wouldn't say in the middle of it, but I have begun it, and I started it again because I just wanted something light and funny. I love these epic fantasies, and I love to spend time with these characters and in these worlds, but if I'm not careful, I know that I'm going to get to a place where I don't want to read anything. So Aunts Aren't Gentlemen is a very short book, and then I also have Outcast by Rosemary Sutcliff, who is also an author whose books are not super long either, and so you get a full story in a very short period of time, and I am looking forward to finishing that one up also. And then I have ready to go, I have The Bladed Faith by David Dalglish, and I've heard really good things about this. It's a brand new release, but I've heard really good things about it from people that I trust their opinion to line up with mine in most things, and so I'm looking forward to The Bladed Faith. I also have Down to Earth by Monty Don. I've read several of his books and enjoyed every single one of them, and it'll be about gardening. So I'm looking forward to that one. And then Deepest Blue by Sara Beth Durst, and this is going to be a novella set in the same world as the rest of the Queens of Renthia series that I just finished up last month. So I'm looking forward to this. I don't know if it's going to be a prequel or a post book that comes after the last one finished, but I'm looking forward to finding out what it is and being back in Renthia for a little while. And then the last one that I have ready to go is If I'm Found, which is the second book in Terry Blackstock's series. I don't know if it's a trilogy or a quartet, but it's about someone who's wrongly accused of murder and takes off, runs away as a result. And so this one is, the first one is If I Run, this one is If I'm Found. And so I have those all ready to go, and we'll be trying to wrap those up. None of those are super long, so they should all be being wrapped up next week. And I'd love to know what you guys are reading, and I will be back Tuesday with like a summer reading pile of possibilities, and I want to hear what your summer reading plans are, and I want to know if you've read any of these books and if you agree with my assessment of them. So thanks for coming back to the channel. Thanks for listening to my little reviews here, and I will see you in the next video. Like if you like this, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.